Hi, I'm Satyam back with a new video on TypeScript. So this is the first video in the TypeScript learning series, and in this video we are going to understand what is TypeScript and why do we actually need it, right? If the JavaScript was so good, if it was around for so long, then why do we actually need to use TypeScript on top of JavaScript, right? So yeah, that's what we are going to learn in this video. So let's get started. So what is TypeScript? And I'm gonna give you a very simple definition, okay? TypeScript is just a tool that we programmers use to write and maintain very large code bases. Okay, this is the definition that you need to understand. Okay, if you can understand this definition, everything is fine. Okay, you will know what TypeScript is and why do we actually need to use it. So, in order to understand the definition, the first thing is you need to understand what is type, right? I mean, what is type, right? What is type based language and what is dynamic language? So that's why let's just get to the computer screen. So on the computer screen, you can see right now that I have an online environment. It is not installed in my machine. It is an online environment where I'm going to run some JavaScript. Okay. So let me just remove all of this stuff. Okay. And yeah, I am not expecting that you are very proficient in JavaScript, but I do expect that you know a little bit of JavaScript. Okay. So let us declare a few variables. Let message, okay, message can be like just a string, okay, hello world, okay, and yeah, this is our JavaScript code. It is a perfectly valid JavaScript code. It does not do anything, of course, but it's a valid code, okay. And let's just also console log it. Okay, I'm just going to console log it. Okay, and yeah, I'm just going to message. Okay, I'm just going to console log the message, and as you can see, we have our hello world printed in the console. Okay, correct. So guys, this is a dynamic program. Okay, so what is a dynamic program? So in a dynamic program, you are not telling the compiler or the interpreter that what kind of value will be stored in the message. Okay, right now we are storing a string, or you can say a sentence, right? And then we are console logging it. But when the browser or when the interpreters are going to get this program and they are going to compile it in the binary or the computer language, they will not know that okay, the message is supposed to have a string value. Okay, it can have anything according to the compiler. It can have numbers also, it can have boolean also, it can have any kind of data type. This is a dynamic language, and there are of course use cases for the dynamic language, but let's just move into a typed language. Okay, and I'm going to run an online environment for TypeScript. Okay, this is an online environment for TypeScript. I'm going to give the link for all these playgrounds or online environments so that you can also play around. But let's just write the same program here. Okay, so if I'm going to write the same program here, so here we had a message and we were just console logging it. Okay, so if you are going to write a program in the TypeScript, what you will have to do is you will have to explicitly state the type of that variable. So let, okay, message equals to hello world. Okay, same one. If I could write it properly, yeah, hello world. And it is a valid TypeScript code. Okay, because TypeScript is nothing more than an extension of JavaScript. Okay, every JavaScript code is also a valid TypeScript code. Okay, but here what you can do is you can actually state or tell the compiler or the interpreter or basically whatever is going to run the TypeScript program that okay, look man, I want this message variable to always contain a string. Okay, so this is how I can tell. Okay, now the compiler knows that okay, this message variable is supposed to contain string always. Okay, and this is what typed languages are. So basically what is the difference between a typed language and a dynamic language is that in a typed language, whenever you are creating a variable, whenever you are creating functions, whenever you are creating and whenever you are dealing with any kind of data, okay, you are going to explicitly tell the compiler or the interpreter that okay, look, this variable is supposed to be of this type. Okay, just like I'm telling the compiler right now that look, message is supposed to be of string type. You cannot store a number in the message variable. But if you go into the JavaScript world, okay, Right now I'm storing a string right now, okay, and just look here, okay, I can just go ahead and on the next line I can go ahead and say that okay, message is equals to 66. I know it is a stupid thing to do, that okay, in the first line I'm saying that message will contain a hello world string, and then on the second line I'm saying that message will be 66, a number. Okay, we are actually changing the type of the data that we are storing in that variable, right? And that you can do in the JavaScript, which is a horrifying thing to do, to be honest, because okay, yes, I mean it's a small code so you can see the mistakes, but if you are creating a very large code base and these kind of mistakes happen there, it's a mayhem, okay, it will be crazy day for you in the work, okay. So if you try to do the same thing, okay, if you try to do the same thing here in the TypeScript world, now I'm not expecting you to understand how the code is working or how to run the code or how to install anything. It is just for telling you what type is, okay. So if I try to do the same thing here, if I try to say that okay, look, message is equals to 66, okay, now you can see that I am getting an error. This red squiggly line, okay, it is telling me, the programmer, that look, you wrote something wrong, okay, there is something wrong with this variable. And if I hover over it, I can see the error also, that the type number is not assignable to type string, which means that we are trying to assign a number to a variable that is already assigned a string, right? So here on the first line we are trying to tell the compiler that look, in this variable always store a string, okay, and on the next line we are trying to store a number. That is of course wrong, okay, we should not do that. And this is what dynamic and typed languages are, okay. So now I think you will get a better picture of what is a dynamic language and what is a typed language. So yeah, and what is actually a type? So a type is nothing more than data type, right? The type of this data, the hello world, is string because it's a string of characters, it's a sentence, right? The type of 66 is a number. Like you literally write the type like this, okay. So I can just create another variable called num, and then the type will be number, okay, and we can write here 88, okay, or 66, whatever you want to write. So the type of num variable is number, okay, you are telling explicitly to the compiler or interpreter, okay. And yeah, that is what a type language is, okay. You are just explicitly stating at every point that okay, look, I am dealing with this kind of data in this variable or in this function or in this place, okay. There is no possibility of confusion there, okay. But now you might be thinking that okay, look, I mean, yes, I can see the use of typed languages, okay, to create a large code base, but what about dynamic language? Okay, why is JavaScript still used if it's so bad, in these kind of places, right? And yeah, let me just explain that to you also, because dynamic languages did have a use, or actually do have a use, but when you go into a very large code base, that use kind of becomes a headache also, because the strength of JavaScript is also its biggest blunder or the biggest mistake, okay. So as you can see here that here we were actually trying to assign a new data type to the message, okay. And we can do this in JavaScript because it is a dynamic language. It does not care, or it does not know what kind of data type it is supposed to deal with in a particular variable, okay. So I did this, okay. Here I was just console logging it, so everything is working fine. But what if I had a function, okay? Now I do not expect you to understand how to create function or how to deal with functions, okay. But I'm just going to write a very simple function, okay. A function is nothing more than a separate code piece in which something happens and it takes some input and it can give you some output, okay. That's all it is. So let me just go ahead and write a function, okay, here. So let's just say I'm going to create a new function, okay, that will add two numbers, okay. Let's just say I'm going to create a function to add two numbers. So I'm going to name it add numbers. Oh, sorry, function spelling is wrong. Oh man. So add numbers, okay, and yeah, in this function I'm going to take two numbers, okay. So let's just say num1, that is number 1, and num2, that is number 2. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to give the value of their addition back. Okay, so I'm going to return, okay, that is giving back the value of the result. Okay, so I'm going to return the addition of num1 and num2. Okay, simple function, right? Here all you are doing is taking two numbers from the user, then you are adding them, and then you are returning them back to the user, right? Let's use it. Let's just go ahead and use it. So I'm going to create a new variable, that is sum, or let's just say add. Okay, and let add is equals to add numbers, and now we are going to pass two numbers that we want to add. Okay, so let's just say we want to pass 1 and 2. I want to know what is the sum or the addition of 1 and 2 is. Okay, and so it will do is, what it will do is, it will first of all calculate the addition, and then it will return, okay, the function will return the result, that is 3, into this variable. Okay, you will be able to store that result into this add variable. Now what we are going to do is we are going to simply go ahead and console log this add. Okay, console.log add, and you can see that we have our output 3, right? It is simple program. No one will think that okay, anything can go wrong, but let's just try to break it. Okay, here I'm giving a string, sorry, here I'm going to give a string. Okay, let's just say like this. Okay, I'm going to give the number 1 like this and number 2 like this, and then you can see that okay, the function still works, but it gives 12 as the answer, because it is trying to join two strings. It is not addition. Okay, 12 is not addition, it is simply taking two strings and joining them. Okay, if you give something else like hello and subscribe okay, yeah, shameless plugin, subscribe to me, then what it's doing is it is simply taking the hello and it is just joining the hello with subscribe, right? Simple, that's what it is actually doing. And nobody will think that okay, something can go wrong with this simple function, this one line function, but it did. Okay, something went wrong. And like this is the blunder in a dynamic language. When you are dealing with dynamic languages, it becomes your responsibility that you make sure that whenever you are using a particular function or a particular piece of code, that you provide correct inputs and then you get the correct outputs. It becomes your responsibility to think all the time that okay, am I providing the correct inputs or not? Are these inputs correct for this particular function or not? Okay, and right now you can see that I'm using the name add numbers. Okay, so it becomes a little obvious that okay, I should have numbers inside of it, right? But what if I just use the name like adder? It's a very generic name, right? And like just say you are an intern at a big company, you are just a fresher, and then you see this function. Okay, you are writing some code and you want to add two numbers. Okay, and you just use the function and you just pass the data, and the compiler does not give any error to you if you enter any wrong type of variable or any wrong type of input. The compiler does not give you any error, and you push that code to the git, okay, to the source control or to the github or any place, and that will fail a few tests. Okay, because in a production environment, before your code actually goes into production, there are many tests, okay, run on that code piece. So many tests will fail. You will get a lot of emails that okay, look man, in your changes something is wrong, fix it. And now you don't know where the issue is. Okay, because here you can see that okay, you can see the definition or the implementation of this function, but when you are dealing with large code bases, most likely this function will be in a very different file. Okay, maybe there is some kind of a common file or common files in which lots of functions are written, and then everyone else is just using those functions. Okay, and those files are maybe locked. Maybe you are not supposed to see those files. Okay, maybe you don't have the access to see those files. You can only use them, but you cannot see the code behind it. Okay, that can happen. And then how will you actually debug it? Okay, how will you figure out that, okay, look, this is the issue. Okay, this is the issue that I'm facing. I'm just inputting wrong things in the function, and this is the blunder that JavaScript have. Okay, this is the issue that with JavaScript, the biggest strength of JavaScript is also its biggest weakness. Because understand that we have a function right now. We have a function that works on numbers and strings both, which means we can use one single function to do multiple things, right? That is a very big strength, because we will not have to write another function for string, right? If I'm using TypeScript, then first I will write a function for numbers, and if I want to join or add two strings, I will have to write another function for strings. But in this case, in the JavaScript case, you don't have to write multiple functions. Just one is enough, right? Because you can pass strings and you can pass numbers in the same function. You can use the same function for multiple uses. And it does reduce the code size a lot because you are using the same thing. But now it truly becomes your responsibility to make sure that these inputs or these functions have correct inputs, okay, and the output is correct. Okay, that actually becomes your responsibility. You will have to think every time that you are using this function that, okay, am I using this function correctly or not? Okay, because no compiler errors, no warnings, no nothing. Okay, and if your testing is not very good, you can push a very buggy code, okay, to the production, and it might actually go through all the test cases, and you will get some crazy runtime errors when it is in production, when the users are using it. Okay, it can happen. And that thing is not worth the benefits of dynamic programming. The reality is that user experience is more valuable than this dynamic programming uh, feature. Okay, it's better to write more code which is more reliable, okay, that you can debug and fix very quickly, instead of writing a code that is less, but you have to think all the time that, okay, is this code correct? Is this gonna work all the time? It's not worth the headache. Okay, that's the thing. And that is why TypeScript is introduced. Okay, so in TypeScript, I'm going to create the same function again. Okay, so function, and add numbers, and here, okay, just think, here I'm going to provide inputs, right? So num1 comma num2. Okay, and yep, here we are. Okay, and instantly it is giving me error that, look, I don't know what num1 is it a number, is it a string, is it something else, is it boolean, is it something else? It is already giving me an error, right? Anyways, you can here go ahead and provide or explicitly state that, okay, look, every time this function is used, I want to accept only numbers as an input in this function. Okay, and both of these arguments has to be numbers. Okay, now if your function is doing something else, you can also provide a string. Okay, you can say that, okay, num1 is a number and num2 can be a string. Okay, you can say that, but in my case, I just want to have two numbers, right? So I'll just say that, okay, num1 and num2 both have to be a number. And here, let's just go ahead and say, give a return. Okay, return num1 plus num2. Okay, and yeah, so in this case, I will never be able to give a string value into this function. Okay, so if I try to use it, let add is equals to add number. Okay, and if I try to give like just say a string, okay, hello, and then another will be like just say a number. Okay, we try to use this. I'm just giving one input as a string and another as a simple number, which is correct. Okay, so string is wrong and it is giving me an error just right here. Okay, that argument of type string is not assignable to the parameter of type number. That means a string type argument, you cannot assign it to a number type input. Okay, and this is very useful because now you don't have to think that, okay, am I using the function correctly or not? It is right in your face that, look, idiot, you are not using the function correctly. So change it to a number. Okay, and yeah, that is correct. No errors means it is correct. One more thing you can do in TypeScript is you can actually specify that, okay, every time I want to return a number from this from this function. Okay, I'm not expecting you to understand functions at all. Okay, it's just something that I'm trying to explain to you. Okay, why we need a type based language instead of a dynamic language in a huge code base or a huge production code base. Okay, so you can also say that, okay, look, every time this function should return a number. Okay, and because the addition of two numbers is also a number. So if I just say that, okay, look, the add is of type string. Okay, I'm saying that the variable add should always have type string, and I'm trying to use this function, okay, to get the value for the add variable. Then it is already telling me an error that, okay, look man, you are creating a variable that is supposed to have a string inside of it, but this function actually returns a number. Okay, so a lot of bugs, a lot of errors can be caught, okay, this way during the development. It will never, those bugs will never reach production ever. Okay, and this is why the TypeScript is so important in large code bases, because yes, in smaller code bases you can handle JavaScript, you can do things with JavaScript, but as your code base increases, okay, as the amount of lines increases, as the number of files increases, it becomes very hard. Okay, because it's not just you who is working on the code base. Many hundreds of developers are already working on the code base with different skill levels. Okay, some are very good programmers, they will write beautiful code, they will know how to write code in JavaScript and how to write code in dynamic languages. And then some will be interns or freshers who have no idea what they are doing. Okay, so yeah, things can happen, mistakes can happen, and TypeScript is a tool that will help you to not make those very obvious and silly mistakes. And that's what TypeScript is, and this is literally the need of TypeScript. Okay, so now we will meet in the next section. Till then, bye.